If you and your sibling were spending the week alone with your estranged grandparents who became dangerously erratic, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made by the brother and sister duo, what you should do, and how to beat the homicidal imposters in The Visit. These teenage siblings are completely oblivious to the sinister nature of their visit to Grandma and Grandpa's house. The elderly couple in question are continuously underestimated as a threat, and their increasingly menacing behavior is dismissed as old age. Let's see if we can figure out the family secrets before we become moldy corpses in the basement. We open with Mom Loretta sitting in her living room and explaining why she left her parents at such an early age. She fell in love with her substitute teacher at the end of high school, and despite the disapproval of her parents, eloped at 19. The family tension escalated one afternoon in a huge argument, after which Loretta never spoke to her parents again. Loretta eventually had 2 children, but a decade into the relationship, her husband left to be with another woman and cut ties with the family. Now, 15 years later, Becca and Tyler are leaving to spend a week alone with their maternal grandparents who reached out asking to spend time with their grandchildren. The film is presented found footage style, with 15-year-old Becca making a documentary about the experience with her 13-year-old brother, Tyler. When Loretta decided to send her children to connect with their grandparents, her assumption was that they will be safe, which is a reasonable belief given everything she knows. Although she may disagree with her folks, that doesn't mean she has the right to cut her children's grandparents out of their life. She refers to her parents as good people, and there's nothing to suggest that they were ever abusive or violent. In fact, she says how weird it was for them to even curse at her. Finding out your 19-year-old daughter is having an affair with one of her teachers would probably be upsetting for a lot of people. And if you do the math, Becca is 15, and she left her parents 15 years ago, meaning she must have been pregnant or with a newborn when the family stopped talking. Emotions were high. If Tyler played more of this video's sponsor, Tacticool, he wouldn't have frozen up when he needed to fight back. Tacticool is a fast-paced, high-intensity, free-to-play multiplayer shooter game with unparalleled isometric views, realistic cars, very destructible environments, and your enemies are a team of 5 players, or relentless zombies. Download the game via my link or the QR code on the screen. Use promo code TACTIDE and get 50 Jason shards, an RPG, and 50,000 silver. I like how you can strategize with your team using the voice chat option, and there's hundreds of unique combos of operators, weapons, and combat tactics. Up your game by unlocking and upgrading different tiers of operators. Discover multiple classes of guns and support equipment. You can use grenades, adrenaline to run faster, control drones, plant C4, mow down enemies with truck-mounted heavy machine guns like this, and uncover hundreds of unique tactics that give you ways to beat the enemies. What's really epic is that you can drive in sidecars full GTA style, shoot out of the windows, break fences, lose wheels, or get stuck in a swamp. It's pretty sick. You have to try out the special modes. The strongest out of the 15 operators will survive in a classic battle royale, while 3 daredevils will have to hold back hordes of undead and zombie survival. Grab a car, pick up your team, and get ready to fight your foes. Tacticool is giving the Nerd Army an exclusive bonus of 50 Jason shards, an RPG, and 50,000 silver by downloading Tacticool and using my link in the description box or scanning my QR code. The kids embark on the trip and complain about the lack of phone service they'll have when they arrive in the far-off land of Masonville, Pennsylvania. On the train to their destination, they reveal that this trip also gives their mom that chance to go away on a cruise ship vacation with her boyfriend. Now, I know it's a widely used trope that cell phones never have any service when you need them, but even in 2015, I'm sure that Masonville, Pennsylvania could still rustle up a few bars on your flip phone. The no service trope usually makes the most sense when the characters are nowhere near civilization, not a town kind of north. In the United States, all cell network providers must make their phones capable of connecting a 911 call, even if their network doesn't cover the area they're in. They tap into the network with the strongest nearby signal. However, with no signal, it's important to immediately tell the 911 operator where you're located, as they won't be able to locate you. Since Loretta has made the decision not to meet with her parents personally, it would make sense to show her kids their pictures so they could recognize them. Old family photos might be hard to find, but she explicitly said earlier that she looked up her parents online after they contacted her. It's also a bit odd that the kids didn't look them up themselves out of curiosity, especially since Becca has decided to make them the subject of her documentary. Eventually, the two arrive and meet their grandparents holding a welcome sign. Becca immediately dubs her grandmother, Marcia Jameson, Nana, and grandfather, Frederick Jameson, Pop Pop. Pop Pop is a farmer and the couple volunteer as counselors. They're clearly excited and greet the kids warmly before settling into their mom's childhood home. Once the kids get to the house, their surroundings match the description their mom had given them of her childhood home, so we can assume that they're in the right house. A couple of things struck me as odd, but not alarming. It seems like Loretta is an only child, with no mention at all of siblings, aunts, uncles, etc. Nothing weird about that in general, but knowing that Pop Pop is a farmer, generally farmers have larger families to make it easier to operate a farm. Also, both parents seem much older than might be expected. If their mom was 19 when she left, and it's been 15 years, then Loretta must be 34. Nana's in her mid-70s, so she would have given birth when she was in her early 40s. People definitely have surprise babies later in life, but it's especially significant to have done so in the 80s, both from the perspective of social norms and the lack of advancement in fertility treatment and access. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's National Vital Statistics report, the average age for a woman to have had her first child in 1980 was 22.7 years old. Both of these things can be explained away though, since we know so little about their lives, so there's not too much to question about them yet. As they make themselves comfortable and explore the house, Becca continues to film, and we see pictures around the house of the people in their lives. Thanks to the use of an Ethernet cable, the kids are able to Skype with their mom, who is preparing for her cruise vacation. She still refuses to talk to her parents, and the kids wish her a good trip. Realistically, the moment the kids are able to access the internet, they can Amazon Prime themselves a cheap modem and have Wi-Fi set up in less than 24 hours for about $40. The weird thing is that the grandparents are paying for an internet connection with their utilities without using it or even being aware they're paying for it. Okay, I guess that's not that weird for a couple old farmers, but the kids definitely could have gotten a better setup. After Nana and Pop Pop go to bed, Becca gets the munchies and breaks curfew to go downstairs for a cookie, where she finds her grandmother projectile vomiting while walking through the living room. The sight panics her and she runs back to her room. The next morning, Nana seems completely fine, and when Becca asks Pop Pop about what she saw, he dismisses it as the stomach flu and just getting old. I understand Becca is supposed to be a kid, but she's 15 years old. If you see your elderly grandmother walking around projectile vomiting, don't run upstairs and slam the door. Go check on that poor woman and make sure she's okay and maybe help clean up. This at least warrants a stop to the family doctor, especially if they seem disoriented and display behavior that could put those around them or themselves in danger. Had Becca had the slightest amount of compassion getting the woman some medical help, they would have learned the grave truth about both of their grandparents much sooner. Assured that everything is okay, the kids play hide and seek under the house's crawl space. Nana terrifyingly joins in, screaming, "I'm gonna get you," as she inhumanly crawls towards the kids. She plays it off as a prank and walks away with her skirt exposing her backside. Though it may seem confusing to get out from under the house, it's not. Just follow one of the paths all the way to one end, and then follow that wall to the exit. Becca should have kept crawling for the exits while yelling for Tyler to either get out or come help because Nana is chasing her. Don't just stay quiet and leave your bro hanging. Becca could have at least told Nana to stop, and if she ignored them, that would be a huge red flag. Walking away with half her backside exposed to the cold winter winds without any concern for making herself decent in front of her grandkids is also a sign that they may not be psychologically stable. Again, they don't really know these people, and there's something not right going on. She should trust her instincts and... Later, Dr. Sam, who works at the hospital where the couple are counselors, stops by to check on them since they haven't been returning his calls. He leaves after the kids tell them that everything is fine, but not before mentioning some gossip at the hospital. For members of the community and their coworkers to come by and check on the missing couple is not uncommon in small towns. Disappearing from their social obligations so abruptly would definitely worry their friends and coworkers. The kids should have gotten the contact information of anyone who stopped by. Their grandparents should already have it, but it's safe to say they may not know where it is. Besides calling this guy back when the couple returns, getting his info would also be helpful in an emergency, since their mother's on a cruise and they don't know anybody in the community. Dr. Sam was clearly dying to tell anyone what the gossip was. These teenagers are trapped in a house with poor internet. Why not hear some small town gossip? Had they engaged with their grandparents' coworkers a bit, it might have pulled a thread on the sinister plot against them. With absolutely nothing to do, Tyler investigates the creepy shed Pop Pop sneaks in and out of. Inside, he finds a pile of soiled adult diapers. Nana tells them that Pop Pop has incontinence and is ashamed, hiding the adult diapers in the shed before burning them. The young man is sympathetic to the situation and afterwards joins Loretta and Pop Pop to see the high school where their parents met. Unfortunately, Pop Pop has another episode and randomly attacks a complete stranger. To make matters worse, that night they find Nana fully unclothed, scratching at the door in front of their bedroom. As the unpredictable tendencies of their grandparents become more difficult to ignore, their behavior is now escalated to physical violence. Pop Pop just attacked somebody for no reason. Both their behavior, which displays violence and aggression, show how they're a danger to themselves and those around them and need proper medical attention. Becca approaches her grandfather again for a proper explanation about Nana's behavior. He explains while getting dressed that she has been diagnosed with sundowning and compares it to sleepwalking. As he finishes putting on a tuxedo to go to a party, Becca has to explain that there is no party, and he is having a moment of confusion. Pop-Pop embarrassingly takes off his clothes, realizing his mistake. It is becoming painfully clear that neither member of this couple can take care of each other. They both have severe issues that need professional care and attention, simply for the fact that her family shouldn't continue to live that way. Becca needs to get an adult able to provide the proper care. In other words, Becca reads about sundowning online and says it's normal old age problems and that it has to do with neurological reactions to sunshine and moonlight. Becca and Pop-Pop's comments and research are inaccurate or misleading at best. Now, you could give Pop-Pop a pass since he's clearly having some cognitive difficulties and may not fully understand or remember the details of Nana's condition, but Becca is literally holding the information in her hands. To start, sundowning is not a disease, but a group of behaviors and symptoms that occur at a specific time of day that affects people diagnosed with dementia, such as Alzheimer's disease. This means that Nana definitely already has severe mental deterioration, and it's most definitely not just normal old age problems. Secondly, no one really knows for sure what causes sundowning, but it's not your neurons reacting to moonlight. Some research has suggested that a low dose of melatonin, a naturally occurring hormone that induces sleepiness, alone or in combination with exposure to bright light during the day, may help ease sundowning. Will some melatonin gummies and winter sunbathing stave off her dark passenger? Probably not. Nor is Becca trying to diagnose and treat her potentially violent grandma herself a healthy idea. The kids Skype with their mom again despite Nana accidentally damaging the webcam. Tyler tries to tell his mother about the severity of the situation, while Becca continues to chalk it up to being old. Their mother further assures them that what they're seeing is the normal confusion and progression that comes with age. Becca should have been way more concerned about their grandparents' safety, let alone their own. Cooking mishaps happen, but after everything, it's a bit weird that the webcam specifically was scooped up with biscuit batter when the computer was placed on the table right after the kids woke up. Honestly, if I was the crazy grandma trying to compromise the kids' way of contacting their mom, I'd have just spilled a glass of water on it accidentally, so it was entirely out of action. Their mother, not having any evidence to the contrary, did what most people do, assume it's probably fine and nothing serious. Becca then tries to get Nana to talk about their history with their mother, and in reaction, she asks Becca to clean the oven by climbing inside it. When Becca crawls in, Nana repeatedly prompts her to climb deeper into the appliance. When she does as asked, Nana agrees to the interview. When asked about the argument she had with her daughter all that time ago, she has a violent fit and shuts down. Nana's extremely weird behavior should no longer come as a surprise after what we've already seen. If I was Becca, I would honestly just shift the focus of my documentary to the plight of dementia and get her relatives some medical attention before things escalate further. Despite Nana's assertions that Becca needed to stuff herself inside the oven in order to get it clean, it's not necessary, nor is it safe to do with an unhinged person overseeing who is the same person that instructed you to climb deeper inside. Most ovens have a mechanical lock. Had Nana actually closed Becca inside the oven, locked it, braced the oven shut, and turned on the self-clean mode, which also locks the oven door automatically and is quite strong to contain the high heat pressures, I'm not sure if Becca would have the strength to kick her way out before she lost consciousness and was subsequently cremated. The standard inside of an oven is 25 to 27 inches deep and 36 inches tall. The actress playing Becca is 5'3" or 63 inches tall. Even while bracing her back against the scorching hot panels as leverage and pushing with all her strength, it would take an inhuman level of effort to push open the lock holding the oven door closed. Tyler could help, but he's renowned for being a coward that freezes up. Is it reasonable to think like this? I think so. Tyler tries to convince Becca that something is not right. He also suspects that they're hiding something in the basement they were told to avoid due to mold. After having his concerns dismissed by Becca, Tyler tries to hide a camera in the living room to secretly film Nana's nightly episodes, but Becca stops him, saying it's unethical. As expected, that night, Nana is once again running in the dark and then contorting her body to scurry on the floor. The next day, the kids are visited by a former patient, Stacy, who is also making sure the counselors are okay. They were a great support support for her during her rehab, and the two clearly mean a lot to her. But like Dr. Sam, she hasn't heard from them and came by out of concern. She also mentions an incident at the hospital before leaving since the Jamesons aren't home. When the second person comes by looking, I would definitely get their contact information this time. At the very least, let this poor woman speak to them on the phone so she can stop worrying. Patients fighting addiction are encouraged to build strong emotional support systems to lean on instead of their usual coping mechanisms. Having helped Stacy through a rough time, they're probably an important part of her life, and it makes sense for her to be so worried about them. Also, with two people having mentioned the incident at the hospital, I would think someone who wants to be a documentarian would at least ask what's going on. After finding Grandma rocking in her chair laughing maniacally at nothing, and then trying to strangle herself with her scarf, she goes to find Pop-Pop, only to see him in the barn with a shotgun in his mouth, contemplating suicide. Becca finally comes around to the idea of setting up the hidden camera in the living room. That night, Nina finds the device and moves it to film herself walking to the kid's bedroom with a large knife in hand, banging loudly on the door. Once Becca had pretty solid proof that her grandfather was suicidal, she had an ethical obligation to... It doesn't make sense that someone who had a moral objection to secretly filming someone yesterday would do nothing in this situation. They're counselors. At the very least, you know they believe in talk therapy and mental health care. The siblings see the footage the next morning and decide to go home tonight instead of tomorrow, and to steer clear of them until then. However, Becca insists on continuing with the documentary in hopes of giving her mom some closure and interviews Grandpa. During the interview, Pop-Pop recalls a bizarre story where he describes having hallucinations and getting fired from his job. He also expresses deep sadness that the trip is coming to an end. There is absolutely no reason for Becca to risk the safety of everyone in the house because she wants a neat ending for her film. Even if this is a misguided attempt at helping her mother cope with past trauma, I think she'd be more traumatized if something happened to her children or parents. Call a cab and get on a train home, then have professionals deal with your grandparents. In other words, getting no meaningful answers, the two review the footage and speculate that their grandfather might be schizophrenic and that both are in severe mental decline. While they're talking, an argument is heard outside and the siblings see that Stacy has returned and is having a screaming match with her grandparents. Even though Tyler comments that he never saw Stacy leave, Becca is still pursuing her film's ending and interviews Nina again. During the interview, Nina also tells a bizarre story, but appears to give Becca the emotional ending for her film by appearing to forgive her daughter. It's reasonable to assume that Stacy is confronting the Palmers over dealing with their declining health. Why not open the window though and find out for sure by clearly hearing what they're saying? Even the little bits they would have heard confirm that Stacy is accusing the two of having done something to the real Palmers. Unless Stacy is clearly alive and well at the house, it would be willful blindness to simply not acknowledge that her car is still at the house. No one saw her leave and yet she's nowhere to be seen. Next, they finally get a hold of their mother who has returned from her cruise and explain to her how dire the situation is and that she needs to get them immediately. Loretta finally sees her parents after Becca conveys the gravity of the situation and holds up the recently fixed webcam to the backyard where she can see the elderly couple. And with her signature Shyamalan twist, she tells them the people that they've been living with are not their grandparents. Loretta immediately calls the police, who for some reason don't pick up. Nina and Pop-Pop are imposters, so calling 911 is obviously the move here. Using the home phone is a bit risky, but the kids can also call 911 from their laptop. We know from them being able to call their mother that they're able to use Skype. And while you can't Skype 911, you can locate the nearest police department's non-emergency number and call over Skype or Google Chat that way. Then tell them you have an emergency but cannot dial 911. They can transfer you to the correct line where you can give them your location and emergency information. And believe it or not, you can definitely be put on hold when you call 911. In 2015, the same year that this film was released, more than 20,000 people waited more than 40 seconds before getting an actual person when calling 911. However, they would never just not answer. Their mom gets in the car and keeps calling the police and tells the kids to get out of the house and try to find a neighbor. The kids don't do anything initially and play board games to not seem suspicious to the impersonators. They eventually try to make a break for it, but are stunned when they find Stacy's body hanging from a tree in the backyard. Before they can get their wits about them, pretend Pop-Pop blocks their path, making them go back and play Yahtzee. During the game, Becca excuses herself and goes to the the basement looking for her real grandparents, who unfortunately turn out to be the source of the mold. They should have dropped the camera and been out the door as soon as their mom told them that they were living with imposters who may have killed their real grandparents. Why they decided to play pretend grandkids and stay inside the house until nighttime before attempting their escape is beyond me, especially since that's when their mental condition dramatically worsens. Excuse yourselves to your room and Rapunzel your ass out of there, or grab their keys and make a dash to their car. I get that Becca is 15 and might not have driven a car yet, but at least run for a neighbor's house like your mom said to do. Literally anything but stay inside the house. Bare minimum, they should grab a knife or something to use as a weapon. Pop-Pop, who is clearly delusional at this point, appears behind Becca in the basement and admits his name is Mitch. We learn that the couple are actually patients who escaped from the psychiatric hospital where the real grandparents counseled. The two learned about the kids visiting, and Mitch wanted to give Nana, whose actual name is Claire, a perfect week as a grandmother, so they murdered them and took their place. Maple Shades has got to be one of the most negligent psychiatric hospitals in the country. Two volunteers should never have been in unmonitored close contact with any patients, let alone those with violent backgrounds, which the imposters did have. Claire had put her two children in suitcases and drowned them in a pond. The real Nana and Pop-Pop might not have been briefed on the patient's history by the hospital, but it doesn't hurt to keep your guard up around those with severe mental conditions. We don't know exactly how the two escaped, only that it should never have been possible with a remotely attentive staff and basic key code or badge entry and exit. Any escape should have been noticed quickly. The authorities should have been informed about the situation and the violent background of the escapees, and a manhunt issued by the first day's end. Once the grandparents, who frequently volunteered at the hospital and who had counseled the escapees, went missing, that should have been the first place the police checked, and they should not have been so nonchalant about the grandparents not being home. The only response to the situation was a couple friends of theirs that wanted to drop off cookies. No authorities, no deep concern, nothing. Becca's hauled away to the upstairs bedroom while Tyler is held downstairs as he stands frozen in terror. The germaphobe boy is then subjected to having his face covered with one of the soiled adult diapers. Meanwhile, Becca is fighting off the feral Claire in the upstairs bedroom and is able to get the upper hand by stabbing the woman with a broken mirror. After breaking out of the bedroom, Becca next goes to help Tyler, but Mitch overpowers the teenage girl. Tyler is finally jolted into action when he sees his sister in danger and knocks Mitch down and repeatedly smashes his face with the refrigerator door. Running out of the house in a panic, they reunite with their mother, who finally arrives with the police. Although it's nice that their mother was there to hold them when they left the house, this would have to mean that she never got through to the authorities over the phone and had to physically wait until she could drive to the Pennsylvania police station and then go with them to the house. If she seriously couldn't find a phone to get local authorities to the house quicker, then she should have stopped at her local precinct, which should have been able to get into contact with the correct dispatch, instead of trying to get out of Philadelphia in gridlock traffic. Though a simple FaceTime call would have made this a much shorter movie, it does make sense that Loretta would actively be avoiding her parents, the sting of having to admit that her folks were right about her ex-husband, while not wanting to isolate her children from their grandparents. She did her best not to let her past with them affect their relationship with her children. I assume she was initially in contact with her actual parents, and the murders happened after it was all planned. That's when Mitch found out about their plans to see their grandchildren and killed them for Claire. On the bright side, this means that Loretta did speak to her parents before they died, but it also means this visit was the reason that they were killed in the first place. The biggest screw up in the movie was the psychiatric hospital not taking the necessary precautions or actions once they had violent patients escape. Besides that, Loretta not showing her kids a picture of what their grandparents looked like when sending them off alone was dumb, but not anywhere close to being as dumb as the kids not getting help or getting out of the house once they knew that they were living with imposters. Had better decisions been made regarding these points, their real grandparents may have lived, and this whole PTSD-inducing nightmare avoided. Thanks for watching, and remember kids, acting out The Exorcist is not normal old age problems.